All right, let's see. My name's Bill Morse. I'm a freelance illustrator.
Welcome to another episode of Epic Sketch Time. Okay, Bill, now you can start.
I am Bill Morse. I'm a freelance illustrator and cartoonist, and I do a online comic strip called Rhapsodies.
My name is Mark Monlix, and I do two webcomics, The Return of Stickman and The Comic Critic, which is a bunch of movie reviews. My website is finally back up. If you go to markmonlux.com, MERKMONLUX, you can find links to both of my webcomics there.
And I'm Ian Castrita. I'm an illustrator, graphic designer, and you can check out my webcomic at employeesonlycomics.com. And you can also see my artwork on unfedartist.com. Or you can just type my name, Ian Castrita, but I think Unfed Artist is probably a little easier. And that's about it for me.
Interesting thing, all three of us are members of the Graphic Artists Guild.
Yes. I'm a rookie member. I just joined up a couple of months ago.
And Bill and I are both members of a cartooning group in Seattle called Cartoonist Northwest. I'm one of the co-founders of a cartooning group here in Tacoma called The Claw, the Cartoonist League of Absurd Washingtonians. And what other organizations do you belong to, if any?
I belong to the American Institute of Graphic Artists, AIGA, and that is about it for art groups. In fact, I've often kind of wondered why Graphic Artists Guild isn't as big as the AIGA here in Arizona. It seems like I'm having a difficult time trying to find events and things going on. I imagine that the guild is just bigger on the coast than it is in the Southwest. So,
yeah.
Well, there used to be, before there were regions, there used to be chapters, and some of the chapters were far more busy doing events than the others. It all depended. The at-large chapter would do all their events online with teleconferences. The Seattle chapter, which used to be a group called the Society of Professional Graphic Artists, or the SPGA, they were extremely active. And so monthly meetings used to go on until just a couple of years ago. And I think a lot of it had to do with membership dropping. I also belong to another group, the National Society of Cartoonists.
now, isn't that a group you have to be invited into?
The way it works is you can apply, but you need 2 letters of recommendations by fellow members.
Okay.
So you also need to be making a majority of your income by doing cartooning.
Sure.
So you have to show proof that you've been published and that you're currently active. And then once you have 2 members vie for you, then you can get in. I was able to get in because, I've been doing cartooning, surviving off of it as a freelancer, and I had plenty of examples to show and lots of publications. Plus, I had published my own books, so I was able to send those in. The 2 people that I had locally that were members of the organization that I actually had quite a few people write me letters for me. There was Todd Clark who does Lulu, or is it Lola? Anyway, he's dedicated. I also had a letter from, let's see, Jeff Hastings, who he's not syndicated, but he's done a lot of cartooning. I kind of helped him out when he was first starting his career. And then there's another member of the Graphic Artists Guild named Kevin Brockschmidt. And so I had 3 letters. So I had no problem getting into the organization. But yeah, it's a way of screening to make sure that not any hayseed who says, "Oh, I'm a cartoonist." Well, if you're not making money,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, unfortunately, that's where I'm at right now. That I would love to be making a lot more money off my cartooning and comics, but that's why I'm working on it.
Mhm. Yeah, same here. Though I feel that I've taken one more step today.
oh yeah, show off the project you're working on, Bill.
Yeah, this is for a friend's award thing for a ham radio group that he's a member of. So he wanted a bighorn sheep looking over a crevice. I think it over a mountain face, sort of as a mile high thing, I guess. But I think it came out pretty well.
Nice.
So
So you made income off this, or?
Yeah, and nice easy $300.
Well done.
Seems like most of my income has been doing storyboards as of late.
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to talk about what you're working on?
Oh yeah, I can even show some of it. Let me pull it up. Yeah, this client. Say that you're an art director, or in this case, an editor, and you work inside of some big conglomerate, and you're having to call up photographers in, say, Michigan, and say, hey, I need a photographer to go to this branch location and take a picture of this guy, and I'd like them to be doing this. Well, he used to have the worst trouble. He'd always get these terrible photographs back that he referred to as Mexican firing squads.
Okay.
And I got completely distracted.
Mexican firing squads is in as in reference to the Manet painting in this case.
Basically, a bunch of guys lined up against the wall with their hands in front of their crotch, protecting their jewels with a logo on the wall behind them.
Oh, I was giving it way too much credit there, because at least a firing squad and a Mexican firing squad painting in a clever angle.
Yeah. No clever angles, just the worst possible setup you could possibly imagine. And the way I started doing work for him was one day called me up, and he was bemoaning his fate on doing this. And I asked him to describe the
It's 5 o'clock.
the project, and he how he would have liked it have it done, and he did that, and I in turn turned around and did my first storyboard, showed it to him. He said, "That's perfect. That's the exact shot that I wanted." And I said, "Yeah, well, that's called a storyboard. If you send those to your photographers, chances are you'll have an easier time." And so I've been doing storyboards ever since. I'm trying to find a good example of a storyboard. I also take the photos that come back where things didn't go well.
I think you showed me one of those ones in the middle of a ramp. One of them had two people of a yellow hard hat, was it?
That might be. I'm constantly either extending out a shot because the photographers, even with all the instructions, are still getting it wrong. And man, I do a ton of Photoshop work for him. Let's see. Oh. Okay, so I'm going to screen share in just a sec. Show you. This is an ultra simple one that I did the other day for him. no NDAs attached to it. And then I can actually work on some of my other projects. Where is the screen share button? There it is.
Huh.
I have a second screen that I'm going, okay, and so if you look on my screen, you'll see that, is it showing up?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you see here is your standard storyboard. It's a little wider than a normal photo frame. Normal photo frame ratio would be up to this line and almost down to the bottom of this copy here. And what I'll do is I'll often do a side view over in the corner and then a top view using little stick figures. And there's more than one person. I'll show the, sometimes it's a bunch of guys loading tires onto a truck. But yeah, this is a typical storyboard that I send off to him. And this time we were able to do a wonderful screen grab because he wanted to make sure that the guy, the photographer, did a screen grab. So we had to make that really obvious. Most of the time I just do real quick pen and inks like this. Sometimes he'll have me draw the face of the person in question.
Mm.
And this image is something I was working on last week and I'm still cleaning up this week. It's the alien from 1980s horror film called The Deadly Spawn. Early 80s film with no CGI, lots of traditional special effects, what's called practical special effects.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about Mystery Science Theater
Mystery Science
3000?
Theater 3000?
Yeah, it's coming back and everything, right? Like, what do you think?
I love it when they review horror movies, but when they review just bad films that aren't horror movies, I get really bored. Let's see. I'll try and remember the one I was watching the other day on Netflix, because there's a series of them on Netflix. It was something like The Capri Keeper, and it was basically a bunch of comedians of the era, involved in some sort of little spoofy film. I don't know if you've seen. Oh, man, there were these really horrible films that came out in the 70s that a lot of comedians did. Like, I watched this horrible thing that had Phyllis Diller, Bob Hope, and who was the master of improv that was a big idol for
Oh yeah, I'm blanking on his name. Rick something or other.
no, not Rick. He was on Mork and Mindy with Robin Williams. Was Robin Williams' big idol?
I have no idea.
Was in his initial role was in the Mad, 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 Mad World. Oh man, it's going to kill me that I can't remember his name.
That's what Google's for, right?
If we're talking about the same person, I used to watch a lot of his stuff.
Okay, this is driving me nuts. I'm going to Netflix.
Is he the one who did the Ronnie Reagan rag song during one of the presidential galas?
I don't remember seeing that. Oh, anyway, the thing I was watching on Mystery Science Theater 3000 with this thing called the Catalina caper, and it's just abysmally awful. Oh man, that guy's name's right on the tip of my tongue. Okay, Internet Movie Database, here I come. Let's see.
That's somebody's cat that I hear.
I don't have a cat. Bill, you don't have a cat, do you?
No.
I hear squeaking of some sort.
Sounds more like a somebody's chair needs greasing.
I bet that's my chair.
Okay.
Could have swore this was a Bob Hope movie.
Bill, what are you drawing today?
Oh, just doing some stock art.
Jonathan Winters, that's his name.
Oh,
Okay. So
I don't remember him ever doing impressions.
You don't remember Jonathan Winters doing impressions?
I remember him was playing generally childish lugs. I mean, in the Mork and Mindy, he was playing their adult child because Orkins apparently regress, are born as old as geriatrics and youthen into children.
Anyway, so he was in this horrible Bob Hope movie called On the Lam. Oh no, 8 on the Lam. That's right, 8 on the Lam. That's because Bob Hope had 8 children, and Phyllis Diller was some sort of child social worker, and she hired Jonathan Winters, who was a private detective. And I don't think Jonathan Winters even had a script. He was just making stuff up as he went along, and it was just abysmal.
Oh, improv, not impressions. Darn, I'm being
improv. I meant to say
today.
improv. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely before my time. I don't know. I must have seen a Bob Hope movie. I can't picture it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched one recently.
The pirate one?
Yeah,
And it was because I made you, didn't it?
yeah. I like Casanova's Big Night better. Yeah.
And I think I've seen all of Bob Hope's movies. But I'll just feel really old now with you guys. Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, you know. I'm sure you guys enjoyed your Thundercats or whatever it was when you were growing.
Yeah, I was just thinking that like Monty Python movies. I mean, if I tried to talk to like my nephew about it, he'd probably just like look at me like I'm crazy or stupid.
They age very well. I mean, despite a lot of the occasional jokes about British politics that I had to look up after the fact, Monty Python holds up pretty well.
Yeah, I'll have to plug one in and watch it again just to see. Because Monty Python for me, I mean, it was hilarious. And then you find somebody who's big a dork as you, and you start just like quoting lines back and forth. But if you try to get somebody new in the mix, they just kind of stare at you, and it's just like, no, you don't understand how funny this is.
Yeah, all the intellectual jokes that they hide in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it always amuses me about some of the writers and artists I actually found out about in ways that you would not. I first learned about Kandinsky from a Monty Python sketch.
Really?
Yeah, it was this one that they did where Picasso was going to be doing a painting on a bicycle, and so they're all watching the road, and he says, "Yes, it's an abstract." And John Cleese is doing the sports announcer thing. He says, "Yes, I think I can see the painting. It appears to be an abstract. I can see blues and." and Graham Chapman in one of his little old lady get-ups and say, "That's not Picasso, that's Kandinsky." Kandinsky. Yes, you're right. It's Kandinsky. And then all of a sudden we start listing off the names of about 5-10 other modern artists in rapid fire description, as if it were a road race.
That sounds awesome. You know, I didn't see as many of the sketches as I probably should have. It was always the movies that I watched.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the sketches are great. I mean, it's rather funny with me. My first exposure to Monty Python, and I absolutely loved it, was when my family was living in Europe. And it was this hilarious. And when we went back and we started watching Monty Python on PBS, and I was at first completely surprised because it was completely different than what I'd come to know as Monty Python. And I learned years later after the fact that what I thought was Monty Python originally was actually Ripping Yarns, which was this thing that Michael Palin did on his own. And they're very funny as well, though they're a lot funnier if you're familiar with the British Boys books from the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, no clue, man.
I mean, they're funny on their own, but if you have that cultural context, they're hilarious.
Now, have either of you ever watched a Benny Hill episode?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and Yakety Sax plays often in my head when I need to lighten them. I love that running gag or scene or joke or whatever you call those.
Now, Benny Hill, here's something interesting, did not originally air in England. It didn't air there for another 10 years.
Really?
It was a British comedy specifically made for the American market.
Wow, that's cool.
Because he knew exactly what Americans wanted from the Brits. And he delivered. So.
That is mildly depressing.
Isn't it? When I found that, I went, what? What? This isn't British humor? This is made for Americans who think this is British humor? Because the Brits were looking at Benny Hill. What the hell's Benny Hill? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, do you have any Monty Python monsters in your card deck?
No, I don't. Because Monty Python, they're not obscure enough. Though I did do a Killer Bunny T-shirt one time for a small, little kid soccer team.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to say, I came across a really funny one. Are either of you familiar with Mouse Guard?
Yes, I'm familiar with Mouse Guard.
The guy has a very good blog where he explains his process in great detail. But anyway, he did 2 Holy Grail posters, and one of them is the killer rabbit, but in this case the killer rabbit is 5 times the size of the mice who are dressed up in the knights costumes who are running away.
Let's see, I wonder if I can find that real fast. Let's see, Killer Shrews, Killer Clowns. Here we go. Killer Bunnies T-shirt. Let's see if this will open up.
Oh,
wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was they said, oh, it's a little harsh.
sure the kids loved it.
I said, I was doing it for my brother. I said, hey, you asked me to do your free T-shirt design. This is what you get.
Yeah.
And so I did that back in, that's 20 years ago. Did that. Of course, she's all grown up now, so that makes sense.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you. I was actually quite pleased with that. So after I did it for that team for free, I ended up selling that image a couple times.
Cool.
One was I licensed it for an editorial about Monty Python's effect on culture. And they said, "Do you got anything just kicking around there that we can use?" I said, "Yeah, I won't charge you much for it either." So I started making eventually, and someone saw that in an editorial and said, "Hey, we'd like to use that as a T-shirt. Is it available?" I said, "Yeah." The other groups, they never got around to using it. So yeah, you can have it. Because they didn't want to use it if another group could use it. And I went, no.
So did they find you, or did you find them to get
They
that?
found me. They tracked me down. My name's all over it, so.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I haven't had that opportunity yet, where a piece of artwork gets the rights purchased for something else. But I mean, that's one of the big things about copyright, right? Is that you have that opportunity to make more money off of it. So
Now, I wonder if I can, let me see if I have it clicking around. Let's see. File. Open. Let's see. There's this one image I've done. Here we go. This is it. So this sun illustration.
Oh.
okay.
I did this way back when. The first usage was one of several illustrations in the Chelan County Tourism folder. And I initially got, I think it was $400 for it. But over the years, I have relicensed this so many times, I've made about $17,000 off of it.
No kidding. Wow, that's impressive.
Because, it was done in vector. It was an EPS file that could be, enlarged and reduced down. This was the type of look that I did for, I think, 12 years or so, maybe longer, was all this kind of vector stuff that's now, kind of has a clip art look to it.
Yeah. So where do you put this that other people find it and purchase rights from you?
Well, this was before the internet. So people would see an example of it, look in the credits, or call up the designer, and the designer would relay it. What happened was Chelan County started using that particular image of all the others became very popular. So I started getting reuse fees from, they decided, hey, we want to use that image again in the brochure again. So it was a first reuse fee. And then they said, we really like this thing. We want to use it for, we want to have it on a billboard. That's where a big chunk of the money came from, was from that billboard campaign. Because a standard billboard campaign, if you're doing original art, you get between $8,000 to $10,000 for original art for a billboard campaign, because the exposure is right through the roof. You're talking in Seattle, you'd be dealing with somewhere between 4 and 6 billboards over a period of 1 month, and pretty much the entire city will see it. So that's like 4 million views.
Yeah,
that's a lot of exposure. So I would charge 35% of what it would cost them if they had done original art. So I think I got paid $3,500 for that billboard usage. And then once people saw it on the billboard, they contacted that company and said, "Oh, well, the designer who did that was such and so," and they went to the effort of tracking you down when they wanted something.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That would be a great day for me. Heck, it would be a great year for me if I could get something to get that much traction.
And like I said, I've had it for decades. So the traffic on it has slowed down. I don't think I've licensed it once in the last 10 years. But, you know, every now and then I'll show it off. And as soon as I show it off, someone will ask me, well, how much to use that? I said, well, let's discuss that.
Yeah. So you don't put that on any stock art websites or anything for like art editors to find. It's always just been word of mouth and kind of happenstance.
Yeah. I was on iStock for a little while, but that wasn't one of the images I had on iStock because I wanted to get known for a different look.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why I haven't been promoting it, is because I'm doing more of a cartoony look. But you know, if it makes money, maybe I should put it back out there.
Yeah. I'm not that you shouldn't, stick to your gut when it comes to, what you're trying to do stylistically, in my opinion. But yeah, when it comes to paying the bills, sometimes you just have to, do what gets the bills paid. So.
And sometimes it can be the simplest of images. Like I have a friend of mine who's a photographer, and he has this one photograph that he makes, a couple $1,000s off a year because it's through this one stock company. The stock company keeps trying to buy it from him, and he keeps refusing, saying, no, if you guys don't want to carry it, again, that's fine. I got other people who want, he says, I'll just let someone else carry it.
Right.
They keep trying to talk him down and say, well, we want to do a less of a percentage on it. He says, nope, I want the same percentage I got before. And they know that he'll simply walk off with it. And the thing is, you don't have that many images that are regular payers. I mean, the same image, he's had that same image with them for over 20 years, and it still brings in money for them because it's a really good illustration.
Yeah, it always interests me what the pieces that I get the most traffic from. For example, on Tumblr, the one that I still get likes on a semi-regular basis is this Mothman sketch that I did during Inktober. I think it's mostly due to the cryptid crowd, but even then.
I 1 year, just for fun, I started doing you know how you can do reverse Google image searches?
Sure.
Okay, so 1 year I started doing reverse Google image searches on all the images I had.
Uh-huh.
And I've started finding all these people that were using my images without permission. So I started writing off invoices, sent them out to them, said, here's the licensing for the image use, and I made about $2,000 that way.
So you didn't send cease and desist, you just sent them an invoice?
Yeah. They used it. What are they going to do? Argue that they didn't use it?
Right. Yeah.
And I said,
that's pretty cool. I like that.
hey, why be confrontational when you can possibly make a client out of somebody?
I mean, did you use any language at all that said, that if you don't pay me, you have to cease use of this or anything like that? Or were you just like, here's the invoice?
I said basically, here's the invoice for the work done. For the work that for the site, for the amount it's been up, it's good for the following amount of time. And then I said, and here's the timestamp on it, because I always put a timestamp. And I said, and I always put it a little far out there. When I do an internet thing, I give them 4 years, but then I hit them with the reuse fee of 35% if it's still up after 3 years. I mean, after 4 years. And most of the time, a website doesn't live longer than 4 years. But you occasionally get those sites that, they're legacy sites that have been put up that someone hasn't bothered to take down a web page. They probably don't even remember the password. And, but, I still have the original invoice I sent them, so I'll send them another invoice. And, not everyone paid their invoices. I'm sure a lot of people ignored me, but a lot of people decided, just to go ahead and make it a lot easier. At first, the guild started giving this as advice way back when. I don't know if you know the illustrator Anita Kunz.
No.
Spelled Kunz. Well, she was very hot during the 90s. Really stellar work. As a matter of fact, she still does fantastic work. And she had someone infringe on her work in Mexico, and she was kind of going, how do I sue these people in Mexico? And we told her, don't sue them. You know, instead of trying to go the whole, infringe upon your copyright, send them an invoice. And she did. They went ahead, they paid her for it, and then they turned around and they turned into one of her continuing clients. They came back to her for more work.
Very cool.
Yeah, that is such a good lesson for me to know, because I've often, like, just when it comes to copyright infringement, just thought, oh, you send a cease and desist, because webcomics specifically, or especially, I guess, like there's so many people who will take a webcomic and just like put it on their own site or something, and not like attribute it to the artist or something. So in those circles, there's a lot of, I guess, resentment for that. And often they just say, you got to get used to sending out cease and desist. But it's such an obvious and I think really smart way to handle it is just to send them an invoice. And
if you hit them where it counts in the pocketbook, they will take things down a lot faster than you saying, hey, you're using that. Don't do that. Don't use that. And sort of saying, hey, guess what? You used it. You pay for it.
Right. Yeah, that's. I'm really glad that you told me about that.
And then the thing you have to remember though is that if you're going to go through small claims court on it, whatever small claims court has to be done in the city of the offending client. So if their business is located in New York City, you have to file a small claims court in New York City. Now, nothing's to prevent you from filing remotely. A lot of people do. But find out, how much their copyright, or pardon me, not copyright, how much their small claims court is, and don't go over that amount when you send the invoice. Because if you go over that, you've asked for more than what's in small claims court, you'll be knocked up to a higher court, and then you have to appear in person. But you don't have to appear in person in small claims. And I'm sorry that they won't appear either. So every time I've sent a notice,
It's 5:30.
I have yet to take anyone to small claims court. I've taken them to. I've gotten money from bankruptcy courts, but I've always been able to settle out of small claims court ahead of time. And matter of fact, I haven't sent a late notice payment thing in over a decade.
Really?
Yeah. I guess, I'm just very aggressive with my clients. And also, a lot of the people I work with, they're corporations, and they really don't balk at the numbers I throw them.
Oh.
Because it's small potatoes to them, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
also, most of the clients, when you're dealing with corporations, you're usually doing a SOW, which is a statement of work through their contract. It's one of the few situations where you end up not using your own contract. So since it's their contract, they tend to pay on their own contracts a lot easier. One of the things, I do have a couple things in my contract that I'm really proud about. One is my change of venue clause. It basically says that the venue for any type of arbitration is in the state of Washington, specifically in the city of Tacoma. And twice now, I've had a client, both clients were from California, both clients were like under $200. And the client, I was calling up for my money. I said, hey, where's my money? And they said, oh, we're not going to pay you. I mean, they were really that blatant about it. I said, why aren't you going to pay me? He said, because it's not worth your effort to take us through small claims court. And I said, do you have a copy of my contract in front of you? And they said, yeah. I said, would you turn to page 2, look on the left-hand column. There's something that's titled the venue clause. Why don't you read that? And they read it, and I said, okay, check's in the mail. But here's the thing. That clause is completely bogus. It is federally mandated that arbitration happens in the city of the person who you're trying to get the money from. I was just able to bluff them.
Wow.
It's like asking for a firstborn in a contract. It's not my fault if they don't know the law as well as I do. So.
Well, I'm amazed by a couple of things, but one is just like the audacity of a client saying, "Yeah, you're not gonna have any reason to take us to court, so we're not gonna pay you." It's like that is just. I guess I know that's out there, but still, just to actually hear about it really is appalling.
Another thing I have in my contract, this is something I call the penalty clause. You get a client who says, "Oh, we'll call you if we ever you say, okay, so the reuse fee is 35%," and they said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll definitely call you if you reuse this." Well, I said, "I hope so, because I hate to have, I hate to see you have to pay a penalty clause." They go, "A hudawara?" And I said, well, it says right here that should you by accident, mind you, not contact me and you reuse the artwork and I find out, I get paid, besides the usage, an additional $500. And after I put that clause in, my clients, the ones that weren't calling me when they were reusing stuff, they started calling me. And honestly, I started getting more calls back, and I started getting more money for my reuse than by trying to track these people down and hunt them down and see whether or not they were paying me or not. So they started doing their own policing.
Yeah, that's really great. Is there a specific type of client that you find is a little less scrupulous than others, like as far as like industry or trade?
What I have found is that the cheaper the client, the less that they're willing to pay. The more nitpicky a client is, those are the worst ones. But most of the time, so what I do is I charge more. That puts me on that category immediately, and then I'm very firm. I'm very strict with my clients when it comes to the amount of revisions and everything. I'm like all over them about that. And if you just have that type of approach, they tend to respect you more, and you don't deal with all the bull that all these other people get.
Oh yeah, I learned that one with doing a favor with a friend.
Yeah.
And that one was so many revisions, I pretty much ended up doing the piece twice. So it's sort of like the best thing about the price tag for me is it cuts through the bullshit.
And the way I get the higher prices is, and this is what saved me through 4 recessions. You'll love this. You charge a much higher price tag than any other designer would. And but what you do is you say to your guy, okay, the original contract on this says net 30, but let's do a payment contract. where it's not net 30, but where you can make payments on a monthly basis. So whereas other people would be doing a logo for $500, to me, because they're afraid of losing the client, that's giving your artwork away for a logo. I charge, my starting rate's $1,500 for a logo. That's for just, a black and white one-off, one comp type thing. And then I go up from there. But what I'll do is I'll say, okay, so this is a $2,000 job. I'm going to invoice you net 30 for $400, and then it'll be $100 a month for however long until you pay it off. The rights get fully transferred to you on this logo once you pay it off. Until then, I own the rights to the logo, and I said, sign this. And the second thing, and they said, what's this? I said, it's a cease and desist command, in which you're agreeing that if I send you a cease and desist, you cannot sell or use anything with the image on it. And this will become immediately active if you miss a payment. And when automatic bank, now that a client can go in and set up on their own bank account, and they don't have to rig it up with the bank ahead of time, they can just go on themselves and say, oh, we'll pay this guy $100 out of my account for the next, 10 months. I make that a requirement as well. I'm getting all these little $100, $200 checks every month all the time. And so I don't have a feast or famine thing. I stopped. I haven't done a feast or famine in years.
Yeah, I do like that. That's pretty cool.
And I make the penalties just terrible. The penalties are horrendous. Like if they are late, they have to pay like $150 for each day that the payment's late.
Oh, really?
So
Yikes.
That's why the automatic payment is the thing. And I have had one client, I had to call him back and say, hey, Jeff, you got to turn off the automatic payments. I have to send you back this check. You're paid off. And they appreciate that. And then I can write them a letter of credit saying, hey, so-and-so made this many payments at this amount, and they paid it off. He gets this, he gets a top notch, nothing missed. He gets a top rating from me. And so I'll have clients have a Dun & Bradstreet call me up so that I can give them this guy did all these payments. It's right on the ball.
So you're actually reporting credit now?
Yeah. I mean, I'll say, have you ever talked to Dun & Bradstreet?
Me? No.
Okay. Dun & Bradstreet is sort of like the credit evaluator. Every business in the U.S. has a Dun & Bradstreet credit evaluation number. You may not even know that you have it, but it's out there. And so I have some clients, they've required the Dun & Bradstreet number on the contract so that they can go in and evaluate you. And they won't use you unless you have a decent credit rating as far as payments and the like goes. What I did way back when was 1 year I paid to be on the Dun & Bradstreet collection. But I only did that for 1 year because it's fairly expensive. And the reason I did it was they send out these little stickers. And you can put the Dun & Bradstreet sticker on your second late payment notice and your first late payment notice. So I have sent out so few of those type of notices that I still have this big roll of Dun & Bradstreet stickers, even though I'm no longer a member of Dun & Bradstreet. And I'll just throw one of those stickers on my payment notices, and that scares the bejesus out of the person, and they pay up before the third notice goes out.
Wow.
But yeah, you can always call up Dun & Bradstreet and find out what your you can ask to get your credit number listed, and they'll tell you what it is.
Oh, you're definitely giving me a lot of tips and tricks of the trade. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, geez, what time is it's 7:45, folks. We're already a little past schedule on Epic Sketch Time today. And since I've been doing all the talking, everyone's seen nothing but my teeth this entire time. I'm going to let everybody else say bye so that they can show off the works they've been working on.
Okay. Oh, darn, I just closed the one I finished. Just a lot of stock art, though. Where is it? And yeah, that not much to write home about. I was too busy listening.
Not too bad. It's more than I did.
Yeah, essentially do a lot of the stuff I do is a sort of cranking out stock art, and then I cut and paste it into the Photoshop strip template I have. I noticed you were, is that a Clip Studio Paint for?
Oh, that I'm working from? Yeah, Clip Studio Paint. Yep.
I'm sort of trying to get better at using it. I mean, I like Clip Studio Paint / Manga Studio more for the drawing from scratch thing. I've been finding their lettering function very frustrating.
Yeah, it takes a bit to get used to, and I have to admit that there's aspects that I prefer from just straight up Adobe Illustrator when it comes to lettering versus Manga Studio. But once you kind of get a knack for what you want out of Manga Studio, you can start playing around with it, and I guess I've become more comfortable with it. But yeah, when I switched from doing like Photoshop and Illustrator to just using Manga Studio, which is now Clip Studio, I did have some frustration at the beginning of it, but now it's just kind of second nature. I just kind of live with it.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, as I said, I feel a lot. It's the drawing for just straight drawing. I'm liking it better, but as far as the other stuff, I'm finding myself moving the black and whites back into Photoshop to do the coloring and lettering.
So this has been another episode of Epic Sketch Time. If you're watching this and you'd like to participate, send me a Twitter. That's @MarkMonolix. Or you can go and check out the Google community and ask to be invited in. That's Epic Sketch Time. We send out our invites via Google Hangout through that community, and you will need a Google Plus account to be on the Hangout. I'll see you guys next week.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Ciao.